Alon, the man who needs no introduction, founder of PumpFun, fresh off one of the biggest ICOs ever, one of the most successful crypto products ever, and it is your first public interview since TGE of the Pump token. So I thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining us here today. And look, I think let's just get right into it. I have a lot of questions for you. The chat is going nuts. They have a lot of questions for you. I'm not sure how long we have you for. So let's just get right into it. Welcome. Look, here's the first thing I want to ask you just to hit it and get started. Can you walk me through your communication strategy post TGE? Like, why are you being so cryptic and speaking in riddles?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a few elements. I mean, let's just take a step back and talk about our TGE. So I think ahead of our TGE and shortly after our TGE, we were in a pretty strict, I guess, quiet policy when it comes to our communications. So our communications really had to be locked down for a variety of reasons. Now, of course, we're looking to be a lot more active, share what our vision is, bring the community along for our journey. And I think it starts today, coming onto the stream and, speaking to the community directly.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on. I mean, can we talk about the ICO for a minute? I mean, look, any FUD or negative commentary aside, it was one of, if not the biggest ICOs that's ever happened in crypto. And I can imagine it was a pretty monumental feat. Like, can you just talk a little bit about what went into pulling that off and how you guys were able to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, we were really excited to get back to the roots of crypto through our ICO. I think some of the most successful and interesting projects launched through ICOs, and I think there's a reason for that. It rewards people that genuinely put skin in the game and want to be aligned with the long-term future of the project. And I feel I'm glad that we took that route. Actually building that out in 2025 to ensure that everything is compliant with global regulations. It was a substantial effort, and there's a bunch of different platforms coming out when it comes to building out such ICOs. We single-handedly built out a platform that worked together with 6 other centralized exchanges, some of the most reputable and large exchanges in the world. And actually putting that together required months of planning and building, and ultimately ended up being a massive success. Obviously, the public sale itself sold out in 12 minutes. The private round, which was a part of the ICO, where private institutional purchasers got the same terms as the public sale, saw such incredible and extreme demand. So that played out pretty successfully in my eye.
Yeah, and I can imagine it was a lot went into that. I mean, look, that's the positive side. There is the other side of the equation, which is since TGE, the token has obviously underperformed expectations. We are below TGE price. I'm curious, like, what went wrong in your perspective on the TGE, if anything? And secondly, what will it take for the Pump token to make a new all-time high?
For sure. While I can't speak about the price or any kind of price action, definitely the sentiment has been up and down. What I think it's going to take to kind of reverse community sentiment is us going back to our roots and addressing our core community, our existing community, those that made PumpFun into what it is today. Our core focus right now, moving forward, I already made this clear a few days ago, and I'm going to continue to make that explicitly clear. Our focus right now is on our core community, making sure that everyone is not only heard, but every community has the best possible chance of winning in the trenches today, not tomorrow, not in a month, but today. And we'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. At the end of the day, we are the only team that knows what it takes to grow this ecosystem. We took this ecosystem from being very, very kind of new and underdeveloped to growing to what it is today. We have a massive war chest, as everybody knows, consistent of around $2 billion of cash and tokens. And we have the vision and have constantly innovated on product, and we will continue doing that. We will do whatever it takes to win. And I'm very confident that we will win in due time and bring a lot of volume and increase volume on our platform. That is the immediate term goal. and I'm very confident that we'll be able to achieve that.
I love the way, first of all, I love it, but I love the way you talk about really tapping back into the community. Do you feel like at some point along the blow up of Pump.Fun, you sort of lost that community ethos that started with you, hand DMing the first couple thousand users that came on the platform in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely touched on a really important point. I mean, where we got started is by being arguably, the most in touch when, like we've ever been when it comes to actually speaking to our community or the community of people that were trenching in Solana back in the day. I don't even think you can even call that the trenches. It was so early. But actually moving forward and building that into a much larger ecosystem and product requires, and actually staying tapped into the trenches requires a lot of focus. And definitely, I think we can always be doing a much better job. I think now, especially with the community making it really clear to me, whether on CT or in my DMs, and I've spoken to a lot of our core community members, the top trenchers in this game, anyone you can possibly think of. I think genuinely we're on the same page with most people in our community. We think that in the short term, but also the medium term, there's just so much potential for this space, and PumpFun is going to be a core part of making that happen.
Yeah, I appreciate you touching on that. I mean, all right, let's talk about the actual Pump token a little bit. There's a couple questions that I don't think I've ever seen requested in my comments and in the Twitch chat more than these few, so let's just hit them. I mean, the first obvious, most potent question I want to ask is about the airdrop, and to ask it directly, is there still going to be a PumpFun airdrop? And if so, when is it?
Yeah, so when it comes to the airdrop, as we promised when we initially announced the TGE, there will be an airdrop. That should come as no surprise to anybody. We're going to keep our word, and our goal with that airdrop is to obviously reward the community that helped build a platform that has flourished for the past 1.5 years. And that being said, we want to make sure that it is a meaningful airdrop and it is executed well. At the same time, it is like an incredible opportunity for the platform to strengthen its current ecosystem and, I guess, increase its trading volumes, activity, and sustain that over a longer time frame. That is incredibly important for us, such that we're actually focusing on bringing back a lot of that attention and hype to our ecosystem. That being said, the airdrop is not going to be taking place in the immediate future, but we will communicate any timelines or any details whenever those details are available. I also want to say that I've seen a ton of rumors about the airdrop itself, the criteria, what the campaign is going to look like, and so on. I think there's fewer than 5 people on the entire planet that know what our actual plans are for this airdrop. So any rumors that you see are pretty much going to be false. I'm very confident about that. So I would just stay tuned. But just know that we take this extremely seriously, and we want to make sure that it's worthwhile for our community at large.
Cool. I thank you for touching on that. Follow up on the airdrop. And I'm not sure if this has already been announced. What percentage of the total token supply is going to be airdropped?
I can't touch on that at the moment, but as mentioned, it is going to be meaningful to our user base.
Okay. One additional follow-up on the airdrop is, I'm sure you've thought about this. When you actually do the airdrop to the community, how do you stop it from being a mass dump, sell the news event where everyone is just selling their free pump tokens?
Again, I can't really speak about any exact mechanics, but definitely in terms of executing an airdrop, we want it to be an event that boosts our ecosystem rather than taking away. So we will take that into consideration, and we want to make sure that whenever that does take place, the entire PumpFun ecosystem and the Solana ecosystem at large is going to see a massive injection and a massive, I guess, like invigoration of interest, energy, and for that to actually be sustainable.
Cool. Okay, that's everything I have for you on the airdrop right now. The second most requested question and topic on Twitter, which I'm sure you have also seen, is buybacks. And to ask it directly, like, will PumpFun continue to be buying back the Pump token on the open market?
So far, I think as people have seen on chain, we have bought some of the Pump tokens. I can't necessarily say exactly what the plans are, but our actions are going to speak for themselves on chain, and everyone will be able to, I guess, it's going to become quite clear.
Are you able to disclose the total amount PumpFun has bought back so far since TG?
Yeah, and I think the beauty of of Solana is that you're actually able to verify that. So I think initially it was around $20 million worth of tokens that were purchased in the open market, and over the past 4 days, it's been around something like 550,000.
And I mean, you guys got a lot of fucking money. You guys got a lot of money. I appreciate you touching on that. We can move on from the buyback stuff. Okay, one just overarching topic that I think is really important that I want to talk about is the Launchpad wars. This has been probably the most discussed topic on CT over the last month, the last 2 months. First, it was Believe coming onto the scene, and then it's been Let's Bonk and the Bonk ecosystem really just going crazy over the last month. I mean, how was Let's Bonk able to overtake Pump.Fun in volume and market share in such a short period of time?
So yeah, again, to take a step back, I think there's a few factors that go into how much activity a launchpad generates and how much an ecosystem, I guess, generates in terms of activity. I would say that there's a lot of short-term hype, a lot of short-term tactics that are involved. That's not to take away from anybody's business strategies. Our focus has always been about the long term. Throughout the past few months, I mean, we constantly monitor the market. We see what people, what products are being shipped. Nothing fundamental has actually changed from a product and market perspective. The market hasn't substantially grown. Product hasn't substantially changed. And we know that in order for the space to actually grow 10x, 100x, there needs to be substantial change. And I'll speak about that later when it comes to speaking about our vision. So in terms of the short term, stimulating a lot of that activity is really important to us moving forward. We will be looking to inject significant liquidity into our ecosystem, engage with our community, and make sure that they have the best possible chance of success. That's the forward-looking outlook.
Whoa. Inject significant liquidity. I like the way that sounds as a trader. Then I guess to follow up, how does Pump.Fun reclaim the dominant top spot in the Launchpad wars?
I think I already alluded to just now that I think we're definitely in need of kind of focusing on the immediate term, the community that is currently active, the people that have brought us to where we are today. But it's, over a longer time horizon. I mean, look, we're not here for another couple months. We believe that we can grow the space 10x, 100x over the next 3 to 5 plus years, right? And for that, and that's multiple cycles, right? And to actually get there and continue succeeding, we not only need to continue interacting with the community and to ensure the success of the tokens that are launched on our platform, but it also requires significant changes and improvements in the product, right? I mean, I think everybody remembers what November, December, January looked like earlier this year. There was so much, everything was just insane, right? And even at those levels, of course, a lot of the ecosystem activity is just driven by how well majors are doing and how well some of the top ecosystem coins are doing crypto cyclical. That's no surprise to anyone. But to a large extent, the reason why our ecosystem isn't like growing as much as it did like a year ago or 6 to 8 months ago is because change is needed, right? Perhaps perhaps the ecosystem is it's too extractive. I think that's a piece of feedback that we've received a ton, right? Maybe we need to build an ecosystem, a core mechanism that actually aligns communities, creators, traders, etc., in a much better way. And that's something that we're going to be focusing on a ton. There needs to be much better onboarding to the ecosystem. That's something that I'm also going to address, but we've been putting in a ton of time into making the PumpFun mobile app the absolute best first step for anybody to kind of grace the trenches. And it's also going to require a ton of work with external teams. I think what this ecosystem really needs is a lot of people in the trenches. They just they rightfully complain that it's the same kind of people trading the same narratives over and over again. We need to invest into bringing better teams into the space, and by actually incentivizing them in a proper way. So yeah, again, I can dive into a lot of that. When it comes to actually our product vision and how we're going to make that happen. We're definitely going to provide more details about that. But just to summarize, it's going to require a lot of short-term focus and a lot of, I guess, liquidity to kind of flow back into the ecosystem. But it's also going to require product focus and genuine change, because otherwise we're going to be sitting in another 3 to 6 months and the products haven't really changed. Not that many users have been onboarded, and the way technology works, and especially in crypto, is either you grow as an ecosystem or the ecosystem dies. And we saw that with NFTs. We are extremely confident that this ecosystem can actually grow substantially over the past few years. So it's just a matter of execution, resources, and we believe that we're the only team in the space that's capable of doing that. We've done that in the past. We have the resources, and we're extremely motivated to make this happen.
Before we talk long-term product vision, I want to ask you, do you think the strategy you've been applying recently of essentially buying a PumpFun coin every day is going to be long-term effective and viable?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I mean, obviously, I think people have noticed the little challenge that we have going on. That's a part of our. I guess that's a part of it. It's one initiative to kind of show the community that we want to be there, we want to contribute, but that's one very, very small step out of a massive game plan of initiatives that we're going to be putting forth. And I think there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate you touching on that. Do you think PumpFun and maybe Launchpads more broadly will ever be able to return to the peak 2024 volume and revenue mania that we saw?
Without a doubt. If I didn't think that the space would grow 10x, can still grow 10x, 100x, then I wouldn't be here. I think there's so much upside potential in continuing to build this out. I think it's really, again, it's just a matter of time and execution. Obviously, the stars somewhat need to align when it comes to the broader market. But once that does take place, and yeah, right now market's looking pretty good. We're heading in a direction where if the products are right, and if we're actually able to onboard users in a much more sustainable way than before, I think that's really important. I think in the past, a lot of it has been driven by, obviously, when prices go up, everyone is hyped up and we're able to onboard a ton of people, but oftentimes it's really unsustainable, and that can even leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and a lot of people never return. I think in order to grow, we need to be able to retain these people, and that's exactly why I continue to repeat, and I'm going to always continue repeating this, that just making number go up is not enough to actually grow the space. There needs to be fundamental change, and we're going to be making radical moves to make that happen.
So talk to me about some of these radical moves that you need to make. I mean, you guys raised $1 billion and you have, hundreds of millions over the last year or 2 years. What is the plan to effectively deploy all of the capital in the PumpFun war chest?
For sure. There's a variety of things. First of all, in order to actually build out this ecosystem of products, because it's really not one thing. There's many different moving parts. We need to build a really, really great team. I think we already have a great team. We're going to continue building on that. And I think some of that is even going to include making strategic acquisitions. We already made our first acquisition with CoalScan, but we are continuing to survey the market and see what can actually help us grow this market substantially, whether that's in the social landscape, whether that's in I guess in the crypto trading landscape. There are many different areas that we're looking at, but we're more than ready to deploy that war chest to make this dream into a reality. When it comes to actual products, there's a few different areas that are of a major focus. I think I already touched on some of them, but I think one really important part is how do we actually get much better teams to build in crypto and launch these tokens, but in a sustainable way, right? I think the current mechanisms need a complete rework, and that's going to include a complete revolutionized PumpSwap, a PumpSwap 2.0, if you will. What that's going to be, and I can't reveal too much about this, but what that's going to entail is a completely different kind of fee structure that incentivizes teams to come, but also to continue building over a longer time frame. We already set the fundamental pieces necessary for that with creator revenue sharing. We have, I think around a week ago, we introduced CTO creator fees, so community takeovers can actually claim fees and continue building, within their existing communities. And that basically lays the foundation for us to make it lucrative for outside teams, whether they're streamers or creators, artists, startup founders, whoever it is. We're going to make it attractive for them to not just come and deploy a token and be around for a few days, but genuinely build something that can sustain. As long as that's not finished, job's not finished until we actually achieve something like this, and it might require several iterations, but we're going to get there, and that's what's required to grow this ecosystem. That's a really, really fundamental part. I think I already touched on much better onboarding that's required. I think so far there's been some decent onboarding to the space, but ultimately it's really fragmented, right? I think a lot of new users end up using products that aren't necessarily very friendly to new users, right? I think there's a lot of people, and the new pairs trenches, which we all know and love, but if you're a new user with limited trading experience, that might not be the best place to get started. I think, the world lives in mobile. That is how we're going to capture the next wave of participants. And we've already seen a lot of success there. When it comes to actual, the competitive landscape, you did correctly mention that, there's been a lot of, our volumes have been recently, hit. There's been a lot of up and down. But even amidst all this kind of turmoil, our mobile app has reached all-time highs in users and activity every single day, pretty much, which just shows how much better our onboarding can be, and I guess where we're already at in that process. So that is another very major focus. Another focus, and I think that's something that we I'm always keen to talk about. Our long-term social initiatives like streaming, right? That kind of speaks to our long-term vision of building a much better, environment for social media where everything is dictated by markets rather than algorithms and, advertisement oligopolies kind of ruling what's being said and what's being tolerated. So that is it on a high level. I'm curious to hear if there's any, if chat has any questions about that, or if you want to dive into any of this a little more. Regardless, I will be speaking about this a lot more, whether right now or other kinds of streams, podcasts, or on the timeline to really make that clear, and bring the community along the way.
So before we go to the streamer coins and what I want to touch on, one thing you said, you mentioned PumpSwap and a potential 2.0. I'm curious if you think the addition of PumpSwap in the short term has been a hindrance to the success of PumpFun coins, and why there is a need for PumpSwap 2.0, what that looks like, how it will change things, what it does differently.
Yeah, to answer your first question, I think it was actually massively successful when it first came out. The initial feedback from from trenchers. I mean, people needed to get used to that change. I mean, yeah, we're looking a few months back here. It wasn't, a few months back, and the feedback that we got after a few weeks after it released was overwhelmingly positive. Right? There's just a lot of concepts that need to be smoothed out for us to be able to grow this ecosystem. I mean, migrations, as I'm sure people are aware, used to take, they were usually a few seconds, but they could take minutes, and in certain, whenever the Solana ecosystem experienced a ton of activity, it could be even longer. PumpSwap allowed those migrations to take place instantly. It also allowed us to have, as PumpFun, actually have complete oversight and control into the fee structure, right? And obviously, so far we've started off with one change, which includes 5 basis points that go to the original creator of the coin or the community takeover. But that control allows us to revolutionize it and actually iterate on it until it gets to an optimal point. Again, I think in order to actually incentivize teams to really come to the space, they need to see significant upside, not just with the tokens, but we do want to incentivize them with fees as well. Because if you incentivize teams with consistent fees that are driven by trading volume, that's a much more sustainable income than having to sell tokens, right, and affecting the chart. So I think that's really the focus, to make sure it's worth their while, but nonetheless, the fees have to make sense for traders too, right? I mean, traders can't pay like absolutely outrageous fees, because otherwise, why would they be trading these tokens? It's going to make it substantially less likely that they're going to be profitable. So I'm already kind of giving away quite a bit into how we're thinking about this. But yeah, you're going. I think there's a lot to look forward to, and you guys will see what's going to come out with PumpSwap 2.0.
Thank you for that. And when we talk long-term vision, I want to ask you, how does PumpFun avoid becoming the Launchpad meme coin OpenSea? And there's sort of this phenomenon that happened with OpenSea, right, where they were the most dominant NFT marketplace by far at the height of NFTs. They had unlimited money, an unlimited war chest, and it was sort of like OpenSea can never be dethroned based on the resources that they had. They sort of got separated from the community. They started trying other things. They started branching out. I think they went really hard into gaming. A parallel there could maybe be streaming with PumpFun. And what happened was a new marketplace, Blur, that had their ear to the streets, didn't make it yet, was hungry. They came through, and I mean, they just fucking ate OpenSea's lunch, right? It was basically overnight. One day it was OpenSea, the next day it was Blur, and it was never OpenSea again. Like, how do you avoid that outcome for Pump.Fun becoming the meme coin OpenSea?
Yeah, totally. I think the most important thing is focus in the right areas, right? And I think our focus is in the right areas. I think in the short term, I think it's abundantly clear that we need to focus on our communities, into stimulating our ecosystem, and making sure that we're in a really good place to actually start growing, right? Because if we don't have the buy-in of our community, if people don't want to take part in what it is that we do, there's no point doing this in the first place, right? I mean, I think one part about, OpenSea and Blur and whatnot is that, it wasn't the NFT space, and NFTs largely, I would argue, were replaced by meme coins on Solana, or just tokens generally on Solana. So given my conviction in our ecosystem in Solana, and just what has been built over the past 1.5 years, I'm extremely confident that this ecosystem is here to stay, and more than that, it's going to grow substantially. So with the right amount of focus, we're going to get there. I mean, I just know it. I know it because, again, we've done it multiple times. We've successfully grown the market, and we have the most amount of resources. We're just extremely motivated to make this happen. So that's how I look at things.
I had to ask the OpenSea question. Like, it's only right. But as we look long term here, focus of PumpFun is streaming and growing the streaming arm of Pump.Fun going to continue to be a primary focus for your long term success?
I think it is a crucial element of that. Definitely, again, in the short term, our focus is on the existing community, what has already been successful, which is mainly, meme coin communities, art, et cetera, et cetera. Streaming is a long-term project for us, right? we're extremely early, right? We're still building out the core infrastructure. We are still getting so much feedback from our existing streamers. Shout out to them. And we're still exploring what mechanisms make the most amount of sense for live streaming, right? A reason that, and then I can dive into why I think we're so bullish on it. I think, from a high level perspective, streaming is so important to us because, before we even built it out, people were already streaming on PumpFun coins, right? And we saw that there was so much excitement, there was so much kind of hype around them. And one core element that we found so surprising is that you could be pretty much a nobody with no streaming experience whatsoever, and you can get insane viewership on day one, right? You can get hundreds of viewers, thousands of viewers. That's just simply not possible anywhere else, right? That's just something special. I think investing into that and creating an environment where streamers can get their first exposure, that is already a really good first step. Now the plan is, how do we make it so there's renewed and continued interest in those streamers, and how can they grow? Like, how can we create the next Kai Cenat, the next speed on crypto native rails? Like, how do we make that happen? That is our major, that is the way, what we're trying to achieve here. And, we've already deployed significant resources. We had the creator ideathon, I think around a month and a half ago, where, we gave out over $1 million in prizes. I think significantly more at this point. We're going to continue investing in that area, continue shipping. But definitely it is one core pillar. It is not the only pillar of the entire roadmap.
I'm a streamer, and I know the most difficult, this is live stream obviously, the most difficult, or one of the most difficult aspects of streaming is getting your first 5 viewers. I think if you have 5 viewers on Twitch, you're in the top 10% of all streamers ever, which is pretty wild. It's pretty crazy statistic there. And it's really the distribution and getting anyone to pay attention. And you've been talking about the live streaming thesis all the way back when we did the interview last year in July, which is pretty wild to see it come full circle. The idea that you could start a live stream on PumpFun and get your first 5 viewers makes perfect sense to me. I actually think you're correct. And we've seen it play out quite a few times now in just the early stages of Pump live streaming. The part that I think is more unclear is, how do you go from 5 viewers on Pump to 1,000 viewers on Pump? Sort of like a homegrown, threadguy, Aiden Ross, Kai Cenat, not to compare myself to them, if you will. And I guess more directly, it's like, how do you get a streamer coin to break 50 mil, 100 mil, 250 mil market cap? Like, is it possible?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. And you raise a really important point. I mean, yeah, that's still something that we need to figure out. That's why we're so early. I think everything that I mentioned so far, the onboarding, changing the structure of PumpSwap, everything plays into that. But I think that's why, our focus is a long-term one. There's going to be a lot of iteration and a lot of changes that are going to need to be made for that to take place. I do think, however, on a high level, being able to kind of invest, so to speak, into someone early and seeing their growth play out, betting on them to continue to gain attention is inevitable, right? Someone's going to figure it out. I think we're at the forefront of that. And innovation takes time. We're excited to grind hard every day and find that solution. But we're very confident that we can make that happen.
So one strategy that Twitch competitor platforms, Kick has done, Mixer back in the day did, is they spent a lot of fucking money on bringing streamers over to the platform. I mean, you guys have over $1 billion. Is it at all in the cards for Pump.Fun to spend a lot of money buying a non-crypto native streamer to come over and stream on PumpFun?
I think that's definitely on the cards, right? But it needs to make sense. I think it needs to fit in within the ecosystem and I guess like the product that we've built, right? We've obviously seen many streaming experiments fail before where, a ton of money is spent and, the viewers aren't really retained, or, there's not enough like USPs, there's not enough unique selling points for the product. I think, to bring a big streamer over, exactly what you mentioned a second ago, we need it to make sense for people to, to participate in the token. I think the one thing that we do have, that there's just potential in is the fact that tokens are the best way to bootstrap community and to just create cults, right? I think some of the biggest streamers right now, they already have like crazy cults, right? But the question is, can we take it even further, or can we help them achieve even more influence? Because I feel like a lot of the streamers, they do get a lot of viewers, but they don't necessarily have a lot of influence in the sense that, you know, people are entertained by them, but don't necessarily they're not necessarily swayed by them, or they're not necessarily super engaged and whatnot. I think tokens can help make that happen. So that being said, there's going to be a lot of experimentation that we're gonna need to do. But yes, I mean, we're super stoked to kind of make it happen, and I think that's why as well. You know, we have a pot for live streaming when it comes to the token. We have the dry powder there, but for now, the focus for streaming needs to be, you know, crypto native streamers. How can we create homegrown talent that can really grow out? And the token has to be a core part of it. That's what makes PumpFun streaming special. So yeah, that's kind of how we're thinking about it on a high level.
You mentioned the token allocation. I think at the day of TGE on the pie chart, it was 3% of streamers, which was like, I don't know, 120 million. I'm not a math guy. I didn't go to college. How is that airdrop allocation going to work? Like, is Rasma really going to get 25 million from the airdrop?
Yeah, no, I don't. It's bad news for Rasmer. I'm not sure that's gonna happen. Like the allocation there is designed to give us the flexibility to execute on plans related to live streaming. It's really as simple as that. So it gives us flexibility. Obviously, when streamers, especially large streamers, want to get involved in you know, new deals and whatnot, oftentimes they want to be aligned with the platform. They want, because you know, when a new streamer goes to a new platform, there will be a significant source of its new viewership and its new user base, and that, you know, they want to partake in that success. So that to some degree is what that allocation allows us to do. It gives a lot of flexibility later down the line.
Cool. Yeah, sorry, Rasmer. I had to ask for you though, buddy. Love you. Going back to comms really quick. I mean, dude, what is it? What does fuck it Jew mode mean? What did you mean by that?
Yeah, it's I mean, I think it kind of speaks for itself, man.
I don't know if it speaks for itself. I don't know what that means.
Read between the lines, man.
Okay. Bro, you're back with this riddle shit, dude. It's like, fuck. All right, I appreciate that. All right, I have a couple more questions for you, and we'll get you out of here pretty soon. You actually touched on this earlier. I forgot to follow up, but I did write it down. First part of it is, why did you guys acquire KOL Scan?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think Colscan for the past 6 months or so has been it's been in a really unique spot. It's basically one of the most visited sites in the trenches, and basically every major trencher cares about it to some degree, right? I mean, people look at it not just to kind of see themselves on the leaderboard, and I guess like, or not even see themselves on the leaderboard, but compare themselves to the best people in the game. But it's also to kind of see, look, like what are people trading right now? What does trader profitability mean about the market that we are in right now? What kinds of traders are profitable? What does that say about, you know, the current trends that we're seeing? It provides a lot of value for traders to better understand the market. But again, it's like, I think the social element to this trenching generally is so integral, right? Like, you've got these people that are, that are trenching, that are trading coins 14, 18, 20 hours a day. And they're barely going to spend the money that they make, right? It's really like a lot of these guys, they're just driven by being the best, by being competitive. And if that is inherently a non-financial product, right? KOLScan or Colscan really solidifies that, makes that into a product. And I think there's a lot to be built on here when it comes to, I guess, making the game more interesting. That's what we're here to do. I think a part of it, of what we are building, as I mentioned earlier, is improving the trenches, changing how things are structured to make it more sustainable for teams to come here and build over the long term. But another element of it is making the game more meaningful, making it more interesting, making it more exciting. Because the fact of the matter is that the more users we onboard to this space, the less and less they are going to be motivated by, by making money. Obviously, everyone is motivated by making money. That is what all the traders are here to do. But as we get retail on board, there's a trade-off to be made. It's not a trade-off, but people want to make money, but it's also an experience that you're delivering, right? And social products are going to be really key to that, whether that's streaming, whether that's chats, whether that's leaderboards. There's a lot that goes into the whole experience, and ColdScan with very minimal resources was able to capture that. So we're really excited to continue building in that space.
And when you first, congratulations, by the way, when you first said it earlier in the stream, I think you alluded to the fact that PumpFun might spend more money acquiring more companies. Is it in the roadmap that PumpFun will be making more acquisitions like ColdScan?
Well, I mean, obviously it's not guaranteed because we don't have we're obviously there's nothing in the pipeline right now, but there's certainly things that we're looking at and are finding interesting. And I'm sure, like any other ecosystem, leader, there's going to be some things that make sense later down the line. But certainly we have the resources to make that happen, and we're going to do whatever it takes to win.
You guys got some fucking resources, all right. All right, this is one of the last things I want to ask you, Alon, is I mean, it's a proven fact objectively, you're one of the most successful founders ever. How do you filter criticism at this stage in the PumpFun roadmap? And how do you sort of separate being surrounded by yes men that sort of look at you as God, Alon, and take real feedback to make real changes and figure out how to make it actionable?
For sure. I mean, I think there's a few different elements to that. I think first of all, there's a ton of noise that we have to deal with, not just because a successful company or whatnot, but being in crypto, there's just so many emotions when the market goes up and down. We need to deal with a lot of that, right? But this is, especially now over the past few weeks, there's been a lot of attention directed towards us, but it's not the first time, right? We've obviously been in this game for a while now. There's been ups and downs. We're very, very used to it. So at this point, being able to glean actual product insights from the feedback that we're getting is definitely easier. But look, you need to, at the end of the day, the best sources of truth is the data that we're seeing on chain, whether on our products or the rest of the ecosystem, as well as actually speaking to users. We've been doing a ton of that. I don't think there's a single team in this ecosystem that cares so much about data. That's one thing that's really unique about PumpFun, in my opinion. As for building a good team that actually motivates us, that actually tells us the truth, I think you just need to create a truth-seeking culture. And that is, we just need to constantly remind ourselves that I make plenty of mistakes. I think I have a good vision as well as my co-founders. But ultimately, actually executing on these plans is it's a difficult feat, and that's why we're building a team, right? That's why we continue speaking to users, because we don't intuitively know all the answers. We need to discover that. So ultimately, this comes down to not having a massive ego and being able to put yourself in the shoes of others.
I like that take. Okay, this is actually one of the last things I want to ask you, because chat keeps spamming it. They want you to stop aura farming. They say you aura farm too much. You said at the beginning of the stream that I asked you about the communication strategy. You basically said it's changing, sort of coming on the stream, or not literally showing your face, but close enough. Talking about the vision is step one in that process. Moving forward from this stream, do you plan to sort of change how you talk about PumpFun and how you communicate what's coming and what we can expect for what's coming next?
I think especially after just releasing the token, there's definitely an expectation to really be out here every single day, not just making it known to people that we're really out here building, but to get people on side, right? To convince them this is the way, this is how we grow our ecosystem, and that obviously helps us translate, I guess, our roadmap into actual traction. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this. So yeah, I mean, whether I think I alluded to it earlier. So whether just being more active on CT, speaking to different groups of traders, creators, etc., or doing streams, podcasts, etc. Like, just I would definitely expect a lot more.
I love it. And as always, you always have an open stage on the threadguy stream. But Alon, that's everything I have for you today. First of all, look, I just want to say I really appreciate you coming on. I know things are tense right now. You're getting a lot of feedback. You're getting a lot of pushback to come here. I mean, we talked very briefly before. Nothing was off limits. I asked everything I wanted to ask. I asked everything the chat wanted me to ask. You took every question. You answered every question. And you came on this stage first. So for that, I'm very grateful. I guess it's like a final sign off. Is there anything that you would like to say to the community? Is there anything you want to add? Is there any topic you wanted to talk about that I skipped, that I didn't ask, that you think would be important to leave the stream with?
Yeah, I mean, I think we broadly discussed everything that's super important to people and that needed to be discussed. I just want to reiterate again that, like, we're so excited to continue building. We're here to stay, and we're regardless of what happens in the short term and the short term noise that's out there, we're gonna do whatever it takes to win.
Alon, founder of PumpFun, fresh off one of the biggest ICOs ever, one of the most successful products in the history of crypto and startups in general. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for joining us. I'm rooting for you. I think I speak for everyone in crypto when I say they're rooting for you as well. And hopefully I get to see you back on the stream sometime in the near future. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, really appreciate it, TG. We'll stay in touch.
Feel free to retweet any clips as well when they're on Twitter. Phantom would love that too.
Yes,
Alon, you're the GOAT. Thanks, bro.